Did you ever hear of anybody like hitting the yard and like volunteering to do shit, or everybody's pretty much?
It's yeah, but on the 180 yards, a lot of them dudes they can't wait to go in the back and hang out with the big dogs.
And explain a 180 yard for those who don't know.
Okay, so a 180 yard is the highest security level in the state of California.
Level 4?
Yeah, it's level 4.
Okay.
But it's a level 4 yard, but it's also the high security level 4 yard, where you got a regular level 4 270 design and you got the 180 design. The 180 design is equipped to lock you down in your cell for a long time. The cells are bigger. They got, they got little courts you could take you out to. Like the shoe. It's set up like the Corcoran shoe for the most part. It's the same thing. But those yards, to get to those yards, you have to, commit an A1 offense or really bad. You have to hurt somebody really bad to get to those. Every once in a while, they'll send people over there that didn't do that. They get caught up. Or they get to, but most of those guys are on that yard because they're dangerous. And those yards are brutal.
Yeah. People like when they, visualize and think about like a level 4 or higher, they can like, San Quentin, you hear about Old Folsom.
Yeah.
Places like that. And, guys who watch a lot of these prison shows and they, they're romanticizing like, oh, the guy, this and that. And it's like, I like the guys I knew and the dudes who were really like you said, maybe running something. You didn't really even know. He had somebody who's like a fake front guy, then there was a guy behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And the guy, like I seen, little dude came from Pelican Bay, you wouldn't even know. Like nonchalant, glasses, like 5'6", 5'7", weighed maybe 106, 70 pounds, but the cold mastermind thinker, militant type shit.
Yeah.
And the dude was like, people like trying to figure out who's this guy, and he's just, playing, because he's finally out of Pelican Bay, he's on a main, he's like at a yard, and like it didn't take long for people to find. But I say that to say that people think like, all these guys working out, dude, your size ain't shit. No. There's dudes in there. That shit is. There's guys in there who like that shit's neutralized. It's like in the military. That's not. Yeah. That's not
if
something.
They want if they want you dead, they're gonna send as many people as it takes, dude.
It's vicious, man.
They're gonna kill you, man.
Yeah, it's vicious. So that's why I tell people like you see a lot of Hollywood puts extras on stuff, and sometimes some of the stuff you're like, man, that's not realistic.
No.
So it just kind of punches holes. Like, have you seen the movie Shot Caller?
I did.
Now, how realistic is that?
The part about them meeting the guys out in the cages and giving them phones and stuff, I don't know, dude. The guys getting out of prison though, when they're waiting for them and they got orders, that's legit.
Okay.
You got organizations that are militant, like you said.
Yeah.
And you got organizations that are like really organized, and you got ones that are just gangs. They're just a bunch of drug addicts, a bunch of violent guys. Yeah. I'm not saying they're all weak, but I'm just saying, in your gang, you're going to have somebody that knows how to make money, somebody that's worthless, depending on, and then somebody that's just a psychopath that will just kill you.
Yeah.
Every gang is, you've been around once, you've seen it, I'm sure, but you got gangs that are really organized, and when you get out, you're going to answer to somebody. And once you get in, you're in.
And another thing, like, I tell people, like, when you talk about, like, what I see from an outside perspective, and I'm just talking from just observing, and how, like, whether it's like you said, in Northaniels, or some guys I know from Southside, or some other like white gangs, it's like there's a certain, like you said, intelligence, and certain guys, they just have a mind. It's a level of respect. It doesn't have to. That guy, like, he's like in a different category because he knows how things move. And you got some really smart people, like you said. There's some guys in there. If these guys would have probably went into the military, probably been like generals or officers.
Yeah.
Just because they very manipulate. They read a lot of books, a lot of smart dudes in there, and some of them probably aren't getting out because they're so smart and they just done made shit happen. Yeah. And it's just interesting, man. You can learn a lot from people. And for myself, I was always a student trying to, always humble, always trying to pay attention and recognize, who's doing what, because, my thing was to make it out, and there's no guarantee you're going to get out, man. I mean, there's a lot of crazy shit in there, and some people are just they're just miserable, and you never know. Like you said, you got to always be thinking like, what is the next person? You know, what is this person may be going through?
Yeah.
You know,
I can't even count the times on my hand where I've wrote a letter to my daughter and my mom, telling them I love them, go in the yard, pop it in the mailbox, thinking I'm not coming back. You know, it's crazy, man. For years, you know.
Have you ever been in a riot?
Yeah. They're not real serious ones, but
Okay.
yeah. There's been a lot of crazy riots in California. I haven't been in any serious ones, but yes, I've been in riots.
For a person on the street who's just like never been in a riot or seen a riot, like break down like what's going through your mind and then what like that entails, because a lot of people, they just, you know, they see something and maybe it's like in a movie, but they don't really understand like what it's like from the inside.
Well, I think that the first thing, you know, it depends on how it starts. If you know it's going to happen, it's a little, it's stressful because you know it's going to happen. So you're going out and you're just, you know, it's a lot of anxiety.
Yeah.
Because for one, you don't know what's going to happen. For the whites, there's not that many of us. You know, there's maybe 100 whites on each yard, and then the rest is, you know, Mexicans and black guys, you know. And when you're going up against a lot of people like that, you just don't know what's going to happen. You know, I think that, but when it does happen, you're just surviving. You know, you're doing what you can, you know, until it stops.
Yeah.
But when it's just a difference of knowing and going into it, and then it just happening. Because it can just kick off, or you know what's going to happen, so you're ready. The worst, I think it's worse though when it just happens, because when you're not ready, you know, that's when you can get hurt. You know?
It's crazy because a lot of times somebody will know something. They're like, "Hey, man, don't go to the yard, or the yard's gonna kick off."
Yeah.
Like it's
for us though, you know, if something's getting you got to be the yard.
Yeah.
You know, if you're on the real yards, you know, you got to be there.
Well,
you're in trouble.
Yeah.
You know, like you just, I can't go to the yard. What?
Yeah.
Like we can't do that.
Yeah.
If you know, it's mandatory to go to yards. It's not like that on all yards, but on the serious yards, it's mandatory. And okay, I'll say this, and if they know something's going to happen, it's definitely, you know, you're going to go.
Yeah.
You're not, don't go in the house. Unless it's like another race, you know, something's going to happen. Okay, hey, the yard's going to go down. Somebody else is going to get stabbed. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
But even then, the white's got to go out.
Yeah.
In case something happens and, you know, something kicks off because of that.
So, like, say for instance, like if somebody shows up and, like, what is the process like if they're, because I know like in the USP, like somebody shows up and then their paperwork, but they have a window, and then they got people whose girls are checking to find out what your paperwork is on the street.
Yeah.
So if you're lying about your paperwork, because I've seen dudes like, oh yeah, and then they're like, well, they got somebody who works at the county clerk's office and they're getting the paperwork regardless.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
So with phones now, it's impossible to hide anything.
Yeah.
But it's a process, you know. It's pretty fast now, but also too, you know. Well, now that you know the people who used to run the yard from the back, are, you know, they're back on the yard now. So almost you would have to be careful being a shot caller on the yard. Most of the time I was in prison, on what you do, unless you have concrete proof. Because if you do something by word of mouth and you're wrong, then you're done. You know, I don't know what it's like. It's like that for pretty much all the races. Again, except, you know, the blacks is a little bit different. But for the whites and the Mexicans, you have to, if you don't know, you better find out. Because if you hurt somebody you're not supposed to, you're going to get hurt. You know, again, it's organized.
Yeah.
But now it's easy to find out. And I'll say this. So I was able to just ask us, you know, if something happened or I had a question, I just asked a certain CO, you know, or they would just nonchalantly say something. But then you got to be careful with that too. Did they do something at another prison to one of their friends that was a cop? Or, you know what I'm saying? So you got to be careful on how you, it's manipulation. So you got to, you know, where are they coming? Can you trust what they're saying, you know? But there's all sorts of, you know, discrepancies and how you know, you just got to be careful on what you do.
And how big is the warden and all this, like as far as, because I know like the prison I was at, the one prison, the warden, he ran it like a gang. Like his officer were like they ran it like they were gangsters.
Well, I don't know. I think the warden in most California prisons, from what I know, is pretty much out of the loop. So in California prisons, you got the COs are pretty much running in cliques too. Mm-hmm. They all got their boys. They're fighting in the parking lot. If they have problems,
hooking up each other's chicks.
No, I'm just saying, if they have issues, they're going to the parking lot and fighting.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all watered down now. It's all changed. But back in the the 90s and for years, if they had a problem with another CO, some of these parking lots in these prisons are segregated. You got the black COs parking here. You got the Mexicans parking there. Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing, dude. And they have the green wall. They have their gangs, but they're the same. They're like the same way, but they got to survive too. Yeah. You got to think about a CO. This is something. So I did an interview with CO Bartos, and he said something that, it was really interesting. He said that, we as inmates, we're in the cell a lot of the times when stuff happens. You don't like, I hate to say this, but like Wes Watson saying he's seen all this stuff. It's impossible, dude. Because if you're in a real yard, you're in a cell a lot. Yeah. You're only out so much. So how are you going to see? I was in prison for 26 years and I couldn't make up as many stories as he has. It's impossible. I could not do it. Yeah. But what I'm saying is that if you're on a level 4 yard, you're coming out for 2 hours in the morning, and then you're coming to day room 2 hours, and then a lot of the times you don't even get night day room. So how could but what I'm getting at is, as inmates, a lot of the times you're in the cell when this stuff happens. The upper tier goes out, lower tier goes out. Yeah. It's separated. Okay. But these COs, they're responding to every freaking incident that happens in their 8-hour day. So just imagine all the stuff that they're seeing. Oh, yeah. They're responding to the cell murders. They're responding to the guys getting their eyes poked out. They're responding to all that. And to think of what they got to go through. They're going into this too. Yeah. You got the gun tower shooting. Yep. Who they get? They're not a good shot. They're not in the military. They're not snipers. They're some dude from down the road, down by the river, who they gave a job to. Here, they can't even shoot a target barely. So it's they go through a lot, dude. Yeah. They go through a lot.
Yeah, I have a friend too. He's a retired CO, worked at San Quentin, worked at Tracy, used to fill in at San Quentin. He used to tell me stories too, man. And you're right. He used to tell me stories about these dudes, and they be talking shit. And he's like, dude, you want me to bust you out? I seen you in the cell with that dude, and you was sucking on his wee-wee, man. You know what I mean? Or you got to charge, man. These guys know what you're here for? Yeah. And they look at him like, and he's like, dude, don't try to talk slick to me. I've been cool with you, because they say, oh, they try to clown him because he's like a proper guy, but. Yeah, man, it's like you said, the COs, you learn a lot, and then you realize, like, and I used to tell him, I'm like, dude, like, you're doing time because you're volunteering to lock yourself up for a check. Yeah. So that's even worse. Like, I'm here because if I could leave, I'd go home today, right now. But you're here volunteering, working overtime, and you're becoming part. So you're actually, like, kind of consenting to become institutionalized.
And that's
it's a form of institutionalization.
And as crazy as it sounds, they adopt some of those characters, those character defects that we have. They adopt that same mentality, but they're just on a different side of the fence, and it happens. They start their own gangs. Yeah. Like the Corcoran Shoe, when all that stuff was going on in the 90s, man, they were gambling up on people fighting.
Yeah, I heard stories.
They were shooting people, they were criminals. Yeah. But it's just the California Department of Corrections has changed drastically though. With Gavin Newsom in charge. And not for the better. I'm very glad that they changed the laws to get me out now with Prop 57, but Prop 57 ruined California. It ruined it. Thank you for letting me out. Yeah. But it ruined California. Yeah. And it's gonna get better, but I think that the California Department of Corrections now, which is CDCR, it's not CDC like it used to be. They put the R on it for the rehabilitation. Yeah. For a long time, it wasn't rehabilitation. It is now. They got great programs in there now. I'll give them that. But what they're doing now is they created the S&Y yards, and they put all these people, they separated all these people, and then they decided, okay, yeah, we're just going to mix everybody back up. With that being said, now it's just a big war, and there's a lot of people dying in prison right now.
Wow.
They're just getting killed.
And is that because of people just like catching up with people they've been hiding out in the system, or?
Well, so you have the S&Y side, and then you have the main line, and it was separated for a long time. What happened was...
And explain S&Y for those who...
So S&Y is like PC, bro.
Okay.
You drop out, you go to the other side. But what ended up happening is they just started letting everybody go over there. And they started their own gangs, and it became like the main line. So what they decided to do, well, if you guys are going to do this, we're just going to mix you all back up and, have at it. So that's what's going on now. They're making 50-50 yards. So if you're an active gang member and you go to that yard, you got to be off that yard ASAP. If not, you're in the hat. A lot of people are staying, but a lot of people aren't dealing with that. Yeah, on these higher levels, they're doing it. Dude,
they're mixing it at every level?
Dude, right now, they're rushing dudes in level 4 prisons. They're going to visit, and they're rushing the Bulldogs. The Serenos are rushing the Bulldogs. They're in the visiting room with their families.
God.
And CDC's like, wait, what? And that's the administration. So you got a few CEOs that started their own podcast. I'm not going to say his name, but he's blowing it all up. He's putting it all out for everybody to see.
I think I know you're talking about.
Anybody that understands what this guy's talking about, this guy was pretty high. He was a lieutenant. He was a veteran Army. He's a smart dude. But
I think he's been on my podcast.
Yeah, well, he left. He
got
retired, dude.
Yeah.
But, he's getting information from inside. He's putting it out there. Like, these people in Sacramento that think they know what they're doing, running the system, they're destroying it. It's already destroyed. You could probably never bring it back. But they're not making it any safer for the people that work there or for the people that, have to do time there.
Yeah, because to me in the psychology, like you said, man, it's like, for one, you're not going to change. Like, there's a certain ingrained mentality inside the prison system in general. And then when you guys are trying to force these people to interact and become a part of like a nucleus and just get along, like the get along gang, and make everything go away, it's like, what are you thinking? And then you got these, like you said, COs you're putting in situations where they're going to lose their life because they're dealing with people. They're now trapped in a situation where they're trying to like work, but at the same time, it's not a safe environment.
I remember at one point, they were trying to mix all the races up.
Oh.
And they were forcing you to go in the cell. Oh. And that didn't last long because, families, but there was a bunch of people that got killed over that.
Sacramento, I don't know what they be thinking. People don't know, for people who don't know, like, and it's sad to say because I grew up in a very diverse environment up in Northern California, but California State Prison is the most racist setup probably in America.
Yeah.
Because I've interviewed guys from Chicago, St. Louis, different places, and they mix, you know what I mean? But California, no, not in the state.
No, it's not happening.
It's not happening.
It's not. If you even get a white Crip that comes on the yard, he's done.
Yeah, he's catching the blues.
And they don't, a lot of the times they're not going to stick up for that, for that guy. The blacks, they're just like, they don't want no problems. The whites are crazy. The whites have big knives. They don't want no part of it.
I interviewed a guy. He was.
They don't want no part of that,
And he said it was just like you said, dealing with that in there, and the fact that you're trying to prove yourself, or even, a Mexican guy who's a Crip. That's like, well, you're hanging with the blacks, dude. It's rough, man. California State, man. It's, I did my time in the Fed, so a lot of times I don't speak on it, and so having somebody from the California State speak on it directly has more of a value, but just the stories, man.
Yeah, you get some of these guys that come on these podcasts though, and they're just talking like nonsense. I just listen to them. So we started a podcast, that's From the Inside Out with Ronnie on the Spot, Chris Curtis, and the Sandman. That's a podcast that we all started. The stories that you're going to hear on that podcast are real stories from the old school prison, from the real. The guys that we're bringing on there, if you want to hear the real stories about some crazy, gangsters, we have them on there, it's pretty good. It's a pretty good, like right now. So Ronnie and the Sandman, they're the ones that have been putting it all together.
Okay.
So like, as for me, I'm an electrician. I need to get my license. I'm in school right now to get my license. Ronnie's the one that's pretty much running it. My hat's off to him because he's been doing a great job with it. But I need to get my electrical license so when I could open up my schools and I could be certified to teach these kids. So he's like taking the reins on that. But he's done some great interviews, and the first one he did with Junior from NLR was a great interview. Like if you really want to hear some really, great stories, I'd suggest your listeners check that out.
Well, during your time, like I know some of these guys I've interviewed have run across some really high-powered people, or people that when you hear their stories, like what they're in there for, you're like blown away. I mean, guys who were like tied in with major conspiracies or different. Is there anybody you did time with that, or you came across paths with that? They could probably write a book about this guy's story, case, or.
Probably. You try to stay out of people's business, dude.
Yeah, I mean that's my.
You know what I'm saying? But I can't, off the top of my hand, I really can't think of, I can't think of any,
Okay.
I've done a lot of time too. So, I mean, I could get up here and lie to you and tell you something like a lot of these guys, but, I'd have to think about that.
Okay.
That's something I'd have to think about.
Because I was in Lompoc, and I'm not, I wasn't buddies with the guy. He was in the same unit, but Carmine, he was in there, the Persico, head of the Colombo family. And it's crazy because I was just watching a documentary on the History Channel about him and about all the stuff. And the guy had like 100 years, he was, and you see the guy, you think like, oh, this old Italian, but the guy was like a major dude. And just, cool. I say hi to him, whatever, he'd eat his pasta, whatever, kind of, his little food. And he had a guy in the cook, and I just talked to his buddy. But just kind of a guy, just kind of quiet. And you would never know, that's what I'm saying, like in prison, you never know who you're around. This guy, make a phone call and do it, it's like, you never know. Yeah,
but the thing about that is a lot of those people you're talking about, those high notoriety, mastermind guys, they go to feds.
Yeah,
They're, all your gang members and all your,
the dude that's really doing
those
big
are going to
cases.
California. I mean, they get RICO and they end up in the feds.
Yeah.
But those masterminds that you're talking about, they're so off the charts that they're getting fed time.
Yeah.
The feds are come after them.
Yeah.
That's why you probably ran into more of them than I might have ran into. I just can't remember off the top of my hand. I think, like people tell me all the time, like, dude, you don't act like you're institutionalized. Like they don't, like my wife, she's like, you don't act like you've been in prison for your whole life. I think that, I don't know, I just think I was able to block a lot of stuff out, and just separate, I don't know.